So I was thinking one thing, man.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that there are so many podcasts right now, right? And so many of them just start with like, welcome to, I'm capturing. This is part of the podcast. You should probably be looking at your camera.
Ah, okay. You never know with this show when we're starting.
You never know. Yeah, okay. So here's what I'm thinking, man. There's a lot of podcasts out here, Michael, and so many podcasts I feel like they start in a really boring way, like, hey, welcome to this particular show,
Gotcha.
You might say something like, welcome to the Photography Brothers. We've been kind of falling into that trap, I feel. So today I want to try out something a little bit different. So just bear with me here. Hopefully it's going to work out. Hopefully it's going to be a just a staple of the Photography Brothers going forward. I think I've probably nailed the intro. Okay, so Sydney, right now, stop the intro music, and here we go. It's Photo Bros time. It's Photo Bros time. It's Photo Bros. Photo Bros. What do you think, dude?
It was good, man. I gotta work on my contribution.
It was probably one of the worst things I've ever done.
Hey, man, I think you know what? We're gonna work on it. Episode 10, I guess, will be solid. We'll have a full live arrangement. Ready to go.
Yeah. I'll work on it, dude. I've got some people that can work on a beat for us. So
all right, I can bring out the guitar. You know what I mean? Like we could just. I think we should do it live. We'll
refine it. Hopefully, Run DMC doesn't mind that little tribute to Run DMC there, as it was. But yeah, this is the Photography Brothers. I'm your brother, Jared Poirier. I am a photographer and a videographer here in Toronto, and I am here with my main man,
Michael Costa, also a photographer, also a video editor and YouTube creator. Glad to be here.
Yeah, great to have you back on the show that you are the co-host of.
Yes.
So welcome to Michael. Welcome to our audience out there. Whether you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or YouTube or any of the other places on the internet, we haven't been pressing the show to cassette tape anymore. So for all of our cassette tape and 8-track listeners, you're gonna have to download some type of Spotify or just like maybe go on YouTube. So. For all of our Amish listeners. So a couple of housekeeping things. We've got a great podcast for everybody here. Don't worry. You've come to the Photography Brothers again, and we are here to bring another thrilling, cutting edge episode of the show here for everybody out there. Just a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, we're recording this show on Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day to Michael. Happy Valentine's Day to your girlfriend, Alexa. Happy Valentine's Day to, thanks, man. Happy Valentine's Day to my girlfriend, Masha. And happy Valentine's Day to my dog, Sonia.
Happy Valentine's Day to my girlfriend, as mentioned. I should probably say it as well.
Probably.
And no one else really gets my love. I'll give you some love, Jared. Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, thanks, man.
But close club. Keep a tight lip.
Yeah.
But
I want to do a Happy Valentine's Day to Hugh Jackman.
Hey, that's a good one.
Happy Valentine's Day to you, sir. You will always be the Wolverine in my heart. I don't know who they're going to get to replace our man, but
Hugh Jackman, actually, guest of the show. He said in episode 251 he will join the show.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have a few good guests leading up to that. I'm sure he was really impressed by the content that we've been putting out. Big Canon fan as well, Hugh Jackman, always shooting Canon, so we always appreciate that. And we're really excited on episode, which one you said?
251.
251. Oh wow, that's gonna be in like a couple of a few years, bro.
I don't know, man. If we start doing hourly podcasts, hear me out. We never stop.
Okay.
We just never stop. Maybe every 10 episodes we use the bathroom, heat up some pizza pockets.
Yeah.
And we keep going.
When are we going to do the research?
The research, man. The research. We do research. I'm joking.
I do.
Okay. I do. Research,
Got him. Just kidding, bro. Just kidding. You do a lot of research. You do a lot of research on the show. Just because I'm an obsessive nerd who does a lot of research doesn't mean that Michael Costa isn't out here doing some research, perfecting his skills in photography and beyond, always learning, always growing. And we've got some of that going on today, I think. I think we've got a good topic for everybody. It's a Michael Costa topic. So let's hear it, man. Let's dive into the topic here.
Yeah, man. Always excited for the topics. The topic this time around is something that I think gets covered at some capacity, but I would really like to have a good conversation about it with you. It's regarding doing work for free. And so I think there are different scenarios in which this could happen. And I think the primary one that sticks out, a lot of people know about it. For the most part, if you're a photographer and you were trying to, start a business or whatever, and you're trying to build a portfolio, it happens a lot, right? Yeah. When you start off, you typically reach out to brands that you like, maybe local brands, and you go, hey, can I, maybe get some of your merch? I'll shoot it and then send it back, or maybe pay me in merch. But it's definitely a trend. We typically start off that way, but I think there's an interesting discussion around one, if that is the right way to do things, if that's fine, if it's what are our takes on that, but also around when do you stop? At what point do you go, hey, that's enough, we should not be handing out free gigs or whatever, right? And then there's a whole other discussion that we could have on another day of like, what's my work worth and all that, and pricing out and strategy that way. But I think just specifically on the free element of it, I think would be an interesting topic.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, man. From my personal perspective, when I was starting out, I definitely shot some stuff for free from time to time, right? Just as a way of getting some exposure, getting some practice, getting some stuff for my portfolio, all of those type of things. It can be a real opportunity for people, right? Like if you don't necessarily have the fanciest gear and your skills aren't where you necessarily want them to be, that can be a chance for you to get a little bit more practice, and then maybe you want to get a little bit more invested into gear and stuff like that. But the other thing that I do want to get into a little bit later on, in the episode here, is just the fact of like working for free isn't always what like when someone comes like yourself and you say something like, hey Jared, we're gonna do an episode on should photographers do a little bit of work for free, people immediately they start thinking like, oh, that they're talking about doing professional projects and not charging. Maybe people are a little bit afraid of that idea. But you and I are working for free right now. So, good point. Content creation and stuff like that. It is work. It does have a certain return on investment in terms of the work that you put into it and the money and everything that you put into gear and just spending your own time. But it is in a sense doing free work. There's not necessarily someone, because we're making this podcast right now, that's going to say, oh, Jared and Michael, you guys spent an hour shooting the podcast and like 2 hours researching it each, so you're guaranteed like this money. It doesn't work that way, right? So that's another element of it, and I think we'll kind of dive into both of those elements, kind of what you're doing when you're just starting out, and then also, as you're going into your career, not being afraid to continually create and continually bring something to people without always asking for money for it, right? And like some of our favorite creators that we talk about endlessly here, like, Peter McKinnon, Gary Vee.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might have, maybe they do have some Corridor Crew as well, one of my favorites. They have some free content out there. Maybe they do have some paid content as well that you can get access to, but they don't get rid of the free stuff, right? Which in a sense is also working for free. So yeah, what do you think about that, man?
I love that you queued me up perfectly, because you mentioned
nice.
a couple things that directly speak to another element of this, which is, you mentioned content, you mentioned Peter McKinnon, you mentioned content doesn't necessarily pay sometimes, most of the time. I think my first point there is, like, you have to understand, when you're making content, it's a time investment. You're hoping that it's going to pay off down the line, whether that's directly into your business and sending people there, or in expanding your audience and eventually being able to monetize that. But with that being said, to the point I want to bring up is, sometimes, even if you're a Peter McKinnon, you're established and you can charge anybody what you want. Well, maybe not exactly anything you want, but you definitely have a reputation. Peter McKinnon just put out a video where he re-edited a Ford ad. And so he openly, in the beginning of the video, says, I was not paid for this. Ford doesn't even know I did this. I was able to find the media assets and just did it because I thought it'd be fun. And I think there's probably a little bit more to it. I think something to consider is, Pete is probably making this video, again, as I was just mentioning, an initial investment, not getting paid for it. It's a time thing, right? But if he does a good job, which it's Pete, he's super talented, Ford could see this, right? It gets views, and it's an investment in order to essentially potentially attain client. So sometimes it's okay to do these free projects and just try to envision them as maybe a stepping stone towards the next thing.
Yeah, totally, brother. So yeah, we talked a little bit about working for free from a content perspective, and the fact that can be a good showcase of your skills, and maybe down the line be getting you some work. The other thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit here, just switching gears for a second, there's also like the internship element, right?
Yes.
And I can definitely speak to that as someone who owns a business that works with interns. So I actually have 3 part-time interns right now. And they're all students who are in their last year of university or college. And they're working on creative projects for me as we speak, right? Even Sydney is one of them, and she edits the podcast. So definitely a great way for them to get experience, and more valuable experience than they would get in a lot of places, and also getting the ability to work like directly on projects that are going out to the public, right? Like this podcast. Working as an intern, basically I had to coach her through, give her the skills, all of that type of stuff, right? Say, like, give her a template. This is how you're going to edit this, the podcast and stuff like that. And it really gives her an opportunity to get ahead a little bit, and to put something out there, right? Have like published work in a scenario where it would take her a long time to get to that position, right? And that's kind of the experience of a lot of my interns, and some of the people who now are working like part-time for me and actually getting paid, my freelancers, like Abe. He started out as an intern, and now he's working on the projects that I do for my client when it comes to video editing, video production, and stuff like that. So perfect example right there with Abe, that he was able to start out doing a little bit of free work and then worked his way up as well. So one example.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's one of those things where it's like, it's a time investment, but you get to grow and learn alongside that creator and from that creator in that meantime. And then, if you continue to have a good output, then the gold at the end of the rainbow is, you start to get paid for it too. And, it's an opportunity to do a lot of things and attain a lot of things from it. Recently I got someone to start helping me out he's pretty young. This is a good example. I think, he's from high school, went to the high school I went to, just graduating this year. So he's a young little guy. Shout out to Ben.
Nice. Shout out, Ben.
But
great editing work, Ben, on all the stuff, on all Michael's stuffs.
That's right. Actually, first podcast that he has edited will be going up this week. So
Okay.
we can link that in the description down below. But he's learning a lot as we go already. We've only had a couple of projects, and the way we work is I ask him to edit and then send me the Premiere timeline. And what I noticed some things, ways that he can speed up and become more efficient. It's not from like a perspective of like, hey, you're taking too long. It's from the perspective of like, hey, I want you to get better and grow and be able to do this, even if it's not just for me. And I think Jared's comes from a very similar mindset of like, it's worth it if we also both grow from this and both get to learn. And I think that's an important thing, is if you do pick up an internship, is really look at who's bringing you on. Like express the things that are important to you, like growth and just learning the tools that are at your disposal, especially if you're at a high school, at a college in a lot of cases, and you're trying to learn and become more familiar. It's a great way to invest your time and just become better. And especially with Jared, your content, there is consistency in the topic, but I think, you sometimes you try out new things. You try out a lot of new things, and it's a really interesting opportunity for that person, like I mentioned earlier, to grow alongside you as you're trying out new things and experimenting with daily vlogs and with this format and with podcasts. And it gives them the opportunity to be like, hey, yeah, I have done that. I have played around with this. And I think it's an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, for sure, man. And you also wanted to talk about, I really like that point that you brought up about, getting the experience that is valuable for you and really picking that right internship or that right free project, right, to be getting into. I don't think that either of us are going to sit here and just advocate like you should take free work and just, that's going to be your strategy or working for free. It's about finding the right project and, going through like exactly how people who have interned for me audit my business. They're like, okay, what's this guy doing? Oh, he's creating content on the internet. I see that as like a very viable, business of something that I want to get experience in myself. And then they go ahead and, decide to take on that internship program. And from the perspective of even people later on in their career, like Peter McKinnon, he's trying to, and I'm glad that you brought in the specifics of that Ford commercial. I saw that come up. I haven't watched it yet, and I just assumed that like Ford paid him to to make a commercial.
Me too.
But I guess
too,
not.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, you also want to talk about when it's time, even if you have been doing a little bit of work for free, when it is time to start charging. So maybe we can start that from the perspective of like somebody who's starting out working a little bit for free. How do you decide, okay, now it's time to start charging, and how do you really make that transition?
Yeah. So I think, we brought up the point earlier of, I mentioned, for me and Jared, part of the experience is that person growing, right? And so there's actually a care for that person. And so I guess one point I wanted to bring up here is, it is important to really pay attention and understand who you're doing work with. So if it is an internship, really read their intentions and make sure that, there is opportunity at the end of it, that they care about your growth. That's very important.
They're not going to have you filling out like a Excel spreadsheet all day or whatever, right? Or like some horrible thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And then outside of the activity of internships, if you're doing free work for a company and, the first gig, totally get it. You're in that early phase, building a portfolio, whatever. I am of the belief of, if they contact you back to do work, I think that's a chance for you to try and earn some money, because they have now basically proven that they have found value in your work, and that, they want to bring you back so that they can bring that same consistency to potentially one or more pieces of video that ultimately determine how their brand is perceived. I think if you were brought back on, that's an opportunity for you to potentially try and earn some funds. And I think for the most part, if it's a company that is honorable, like kind of what's the term I'm looking for here? But I think you know what I'm saying. Honest,
reputable, honest,
reputable. Yeah. And if they're reaching back out to you, for the most part, they should be like, hey, you know what? Great test trial. How about we do something else? What kind of pricing are you thinking of? If some people really get caught in this loop, and they do 2, 3, 4, sometimes more gigs for free for one company and don't get taken advantage. Some of these people, you hear it a lot with some of these watch brands that are coming up now, a lot of videos talking to that. So just be very careful. I think when it comes to transitioning out of, in general, that mindset of doing free work for brands, and again, of course, we've talked about, you can make content just because it's fun and you want to get exposure, but in regards to reaching out, doing sales activity, or them coming to you, I think you really just got to get to a point where you're just comfortable. And I think it has less to do with your portfolio, because I think you're going to get a lot of really good photos before you get to this point where you're like, I just feel really comfortable.
Yeah.
But just, it's really more of like, you know what? I feel like I do good work. And that's okay to say, by the way. You're allowed to be confident in your work. And once you start to get that inkling, that feeling of like, I feel like it's worth something. I think, and that's a very unique thing. That's a special thing. That's you answering it yourself kind of thing. So hopefully you didn't come here for the magic pill, but it really is, I think, intended to be kind of clear to you when it's like, hey, I should get paid for this.
Yeah, it's tough too, right? Like, it's always tough to go from that position of, from the perspective of the person who's hiring you. Like, if you get them used to the idea that you're going to do work for free, I think you've kind of got yourself in a really bad position. It's more of from their perspective, they don't want to make some big commitment and make some big investment into something that they're not necessarily going to be happy with. And giving them an opportunity to just kind of throw you a bone and, we're going to do a little bit of a project for free, and that's going to open the doors for you. In that case, I guess it can be good. But it is interesting what you were saying as well around like the point of confidence. I don't always think that confidence is the best rubric, because we've talked about like imposter syndrome and things like that, right? And just I sometimes I feel like some of the best photographers and some of the best creatives like lack confidence, and they need to be charging a little bit, maybe more than they are, or something like that. So confidence always, that's an important thing, but maybe it's more when you can draw from the experience of other people, right? If people are coming to you and saying like, wow, this is really good work, and people are starting to be really impressed with what you're doing, maybe that's the point, when you're getting a lot of that feedback. Of course, yeah, confidence in yourself and confidence in your own work is definitely part of it, but also other factors as well, other strong factors, including the feedback from your peers, man. That's why I try to surround myself with so many talented people, so many good photographers, and people who keep me honest as well, right? Like they will say, oh, Jared, like this photo is great, or this one isn't. what you can do better, right?
Yeah. No, like honestly, it's a perspective I wasn't thinking about bringing up, but you're so right. Community in general, I think is a topic that can relate back to many points, many other topics. It's so important, whether you're going to meetups, whether you're involved in Reddit communities, or like Jared mentioned, creating a small a group of people that you trust and are transparent with you and can tell you the things you need to hear. I think that is incredibly important. And to the point of confidence, I think it's more so evaluating your work in the moment and feeling like it's good work. You're always going to have imposter syndrome when you go in for your first paid gig, or for the moment that you actually start sending the email. It's more of an action or a feeling that you start to get when it becomes real. But I think that there's a moment where you're looking at work that you're doing, and maybe it's not for a gig. Maybe you're making YouTube content. Maybe you're in Lightroom editing a photo, whatever it is.
Shooting photos of your dog or your cat.
Photos of your dog. And you're like, man, that is the best.
Shout out to Michael's cat. What's the Instagram? The tag? Instagram.
Oh,
handle?
Thank you. On Cusco's Mind. On _Cusco's _mind.
Cusco spelled
CUZCO. I've never had to audibly spell out his name before.
Michael's on the podcast. He knows how to spell his own cat's name.
Yeah, I mean, look, guys, if you're new to the show, my English is terrible. It is my first language. Just a heads up.
Yeah,
it's kind of disappointing, but
his first and only language.
Eu falo português, não muito bem. Eu falo português.
Oh,
yeah.
No
that was
idea,
actually
man.
terrible, but yeah, it's whether it's a photo of your dog, photo of a landscape, photo of a bug in the backyard. It's sometimes it's in the way that you edit it. Sometimes it's in the speed. Maybe things pick up. It's the quality of it. It's the recognition. Maybe it's something you look at it, and in that moment of not thinking too hard about it, you go, that's a dope photo, or that's a dope video. That is, I feel confident in that moment. I think that's it's a special moment that you have with yourself. You're going to get imposter syndrome. 100%. Mm-hmm. I still get imposter syndrome. And I can tell you right now, if I go and I shoot an event after this whole pandemic happens and I haven't shot for like 2-3 years, it's going to be just like shooting from day one again. But yeah.
Yeah. You and everybody else though, man. There's no like secret people who have been out here shooting parties or whatever, shooting events, right? So I hope in that sense, everyone's on the same playing field. Just that hopefully we'll be a little bit ahead of the game, having been making all of this content here, man. But I think that we're a little bit around the halfway mark of the podcast here. Just to kind of wrap things up, I think Michael and I both agree that it's okay. It shouldn't be a taboo to do a little bit of free work as a photographer, as a creative. If that is work for a client, or if that is, your own type of content creation, I think any of that is fine. And I think it works in a lot of stages of your career, right? Like when you're just starting out, like we talked a little bit about internships. We talked about just like taking some free projects on as a freelancer. We also talked about times where even you and I, still in our career, like do a little bit of free work. And then, even people who are ahead of us, like Mr. Peter McKinnon is a great example, is doing some free work, right? Of course, you have to acknowledge that you gotta have to keep the business open. If you want to keep shooting photos, if you want to keep doing creative things as your career, I think that you really do at some point have to start charging, and charge an amount where it's worth it for your work, where, like you said, you feel good about it, like you're putting out good work, you deserve to be compensated fairly. And that's all just going to be something that you work through in your career. But I hope that this discussion was a little bit enlightening. Any final thoughts before we go into the news, Michael?
No, I think it's good. It was a good conversation, man. Like always.
Likewise, man. Great to be here on a Sunday afternoon on Valentine's Day with my bro.
Should I light a candle or
light a candle? I've got a few lit. I'm just finishing up my coffee here, and I think we're just about ready to go into the news. All right, so it is Photography Brothers News, and we're here to bring you the latest news in the world of photography. And let me tell you guys something. Your brother Jared here, he's always combing through the news. He's looking for the best stories for PHOTOBROS. I leave no rock unturned. I'm looking everywhere. I'm going on Google and I'm searching photography news on there, and I look through the stories, and then we pick a news story. And today's news story is an excellent story. Like I said, we've really been diving down to the depths. Like Godzilla, with that level of fierceness and intensity. And we're grabbing the news stories and we're bringing them up and we're showing them victoriously to the podcast listeners here, and I guess to the ones who are only listening, they're gonna hear it. They're gonna hear the stories. So let's get into it here. We have an excellent news story. At least I hope so. I think Michael has faith in me that we've brought a good news story, and I think that it's going to be an interesting one to talk about. Definitely an interesting headline. As soon as I saw this headline, I was like, all right, undeniably we have to cover this on PHOTOBROS.
100%.
So the model who made Instagram apologize, right? And not just apologize, but change their policies. So that's going to be the more interesting part here. So I'll just get into the story a little bit, but obviously this is incredibly complicated issue. We are going to be talking a little bit about like racism. We're going to talk about like the representation of Black people and minorities and stuff like that. Some pretty heavy subject matter. And you know, I even, to be honest, I question whether I did really like the story, and definitely something that I thought I wanted to speak on. And I think not that we have a massive audience or anything like that, but I think the more people that hear about stories like this, the better. So, you know, I'm obviously a white guy. I am not a plus size Black woman. Michael Costa, you are not a plus size Black woman either, correct? No, he's not. But nonetheless, we're going to come at this from a photographer's perspective, and we are going to come at it from a researched based perspective. And I did quickly chat a little bit today with some people who are a little bit more directly affected by stuff like this, such as my friend Kashif, who is a like portrait and lifestyle photographer in Jamaica. So definitely this is something that hits home for him as someone who shoots a lot of photos of Black women and puts it on his Instagram, right? So definitely something where we'll get some of Kashif's thoughts on that. First of all, Michael, did you hear about the story before your brother Jared brought it to your attention today?
I had heard of it. I believe Philip DeFranco had mentioned it during one of his videos, but it was good to read through the story to understand how it developed, learn a little bit more about the photographer herself a little bit as well, and to understand ultimately where that ended up.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a fascinating story. And like I said, one with deep roots, and definitely one that's going to be of a lot of interest to our listeners. I think so many people these days are like affected by Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. And to me, like really thinking as a photographer and looking at this story, definitely something that perked my ears up. So let's get into the story in a little bit more depth here. The photographer who shot this photo is Alexandra Cameron. We'll link her Instagram down below, obviously. The model is Nyome Nicholas Williams. And basically the story here is that Nyome is a plus size Black model, and Alexandra did a photo shoot with her. Alex had actually reached out to Nyome found her, I guess, on Instagram or something like that, and said like, hey, I would love if you came out to my studio and we did a photo shoot. The photos are really cool. I actually really like Alex's approach to photography. We'll get into it a little bit more in detail in a moment, but just to give you guys the rest of the broad strokes of the story here. So unfortunately, when Alex posted the photo, it was totally fine. And it's a photo of Nyome. She's wearing shorts and she has her top off, but she's like holding her breast. So like covering everything that like Instagram doesn't want on the platform, right? According to her, like following all of the rules of what's allowed on Instagram, playing by the rules. And on Nyome's account, the photo was deleted by Instagram. And then on Alex's account, it ended up getting flagged and censored as well. So Alex and Nyome were pretty frustrated by this, and they're kind of wondering like what the heck's going on. Alex is a seasoned Instagram photographer. She's put lots of photos on Instagram. She knows what she can put and what she can't put on the platform. So she was just pretty confused by it and ended up getting some of her friends to try to post the photo. And for all of them, it was flagged and taken down as well. So this ended up garnering some attention online. There's like a hashtag, I want to see Nyome, that people start putting on Instagram. And then there's a story in the Observer online, which gets some more attention. And it ends up getting the attention of the CEO of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, who so the story actually kind of has a nice I don't know we'll get into it, a nice-ish ending. I don't want to be too positive about it here, because I think that this is some pretty troublesome stuff that can't be all solved in one swift motion. But Adam here ended up calling Nyome to apologize. And, that I think is good. He set up a call, he did reach out, and he did, basically they tried to explain it by saying that like the algorithm isn't really racist. It's just that the algorithm is prone to flagging like bigger breasts or breasts that are getting squeezed. So apparently that was like more of the issue. But as someone who is putting content onto Instagram, like from the perspective of this photographer Alex, like that's not how she was really seeing it, right? But they did change the policy in October, and Adam has publicly apologized for this, and he has said that Instagram is working to fix these things, but I just don't see it as fixed yet, right? Like I don't know, like the apology is great, but to me it doesn't seem like enough. What do you think, man?
I think it's a step. I think they I think that there's something to be said about all of the about the many instances where the algorithm messes up, because this actually happens quite a bit. But I think maybe you have active monitoring. Maybe it's there's a reviewing process with live people. I think this is a photographer who who states in here how passionate she is about this stuff, body positivity, and and just morally, just she's a very well guided person. And I think it's disappointing, right? Like you put together some work, you feel really, really good about it. This is your life's work. This is just a great contributor towards that. And then your greatest platform, I mean, she has a lot of followers on here. She's got almost 60,000 people on her Instagram page. She has some other platforms, but this is where she wants to, this is where she's going to get to the most people. This is where, the message gets driven across. And I can only imagine how disappointing it can be when, you post on this platform, you try to get in front of the most amount of eyes and just over and over again, it's being taken down, and it's this disapproving message from this place where you've built a following and a community, and it's of like-minded people. And I'm glad that there was some sort of turnaround here. I don't know that it's necessarily enough, like you mentioned, but it's kind of hard.
It's not nothing. The CEO is apologizing. They're changing the policy. Like, the photos are up there now and they're staying up, so it's not nothing.
Yeah, I think the big thing to see here is we see a lot of empty promises come out. And so I think a really good way for Instagram to, even on their end, to help their brand awareness is, or not necessarily brand awareness, but the health of their brand, is to actively post about the changes that they're making. For one, that's going to help to help your brand be perceived as someone who's a brand that's actually actively owning up to a mistake and putting things forward to make sure it doesn't happen again. And if you can get ahead of other issues as well, then that's awesome as well. But secondly, it helps us understand that it's actually happening. You're actually making these changes happen.
Yeah, they have to be a lot more transparent with how they're dealing with the public and all that type of thing. I mean, I do understand, like, from, Instagram and Facebook's perspective, like, they don't want Instagram to be like, the platform is what they want it to be, which is like a social media platform. They don't want it to be like a pornography website, let's say, right? Like, I get that. Like, why they don't want like just actual pornography on Instagram. I don't think at all that's what this photographer Alex is doing. And you can definitely tell. And this is the bigger problem that I want to get to here. Like, it's like an artistic kind of determination, right? Like, between this is like pornography or this is like an artsy photo of someone's naked body or nearly naked body, right? And it's clear that what Alex is doing here, like, she is a real artist. She's like a legitimate photographer. You hear her talk about her process, how she has her studio. It's actually in her barn on her farm, right? And in the article here, you can hear her talking about like the really relaxing her models, the fact that they're out there at the farm, the dogs are going around, running around in the garden, and everyone's just kind of more relaxed, and she's shooting with natural light. And, I hear stories like that and I'm like, okay, this is a true artist. Like, this is a photographer that I would want to hang out with and learn from. And then, to be flagged and taken down under this thing where it's like, oh, Instagram doesn't want like obscene photos or whatever. It's like, no, like, this isn't that in any way. Right.
Yeah. I think the really upsetting thing here for me is, like, there is a lot in regards to photos that reveal the female body a lot. And maybe this is applicable both ways, I'm not sure, but specifically there is a lot. And you mentioned there's a line, right there. Like, I see so many photos, from people that I used to shoot with, from people on Discover or whatever, and they're objectifying for no reason. There's no purpose to it other than the annoyingly popular phrase that sex sells.
Yeah, and they're just sexy pics and those types of sexy portraits. Yeah,
exactly, right. And although maybe even in some of them there's more clothing, it in a way feels more revealing. And I think that, and this is ultimately where I was trying to go with, having some sort of reviewing process. Maybe you have a segment, right? You can tell the algorithm based on a certain line of code is looking at a specific thing and saying, okay, well, because of this, we are taking it down, right? Why don't we use the YouTube approach here when, I've unfortunately I do some reaction videos. Not unfortunately I do reaction videos, but unfortunately, a downside to doing some reaction videos is you have copyright. And so it gets not deleted, not taken down, just currently on pause until the dispute has been has been reviewed and it eventually, it always, comes back online. I think if you can look at some of these areas, these pockets where you're seeing a lot of issues, a lot of feedback where it's like, this is not like in this scenario, for example, this is not just nudity. Like, this is a message. This is something I feel very strongly about, and it's art. And when you look at it, you can tell the image is very expressive just by looking at it. It's a fantastic image. It's art, right? Yep. And I think you need to have some sort of active monitoring from human people that can make that distinction. You want to put it on pause for a day, a couple of days. I understand there's a lot of photos. That's fine, but at least it's handled properly.
Yeah, not just dismissed, right? Where your only relationship is with that algorithm, and the algorithm's making all of the decisions. Like Facebook makes a lot of money, man. Facebook has the money to invest in stuff like this, right? 100%. Instead of just, lining Mark Zuckerberg's pockets or whatever. And, I'm not like one of these people who like hates on success either. Like, I'm trying to be as successful in business as I possibly can. So I would never hate on someone else's success, but like, I don't know, man. Like, when you look into the history of Facebook and just the general business practices of Facebook, like, there are a lot of problems there. And I have a few things here actually on that, some recent stuff, and then a little bit, recent times going back a few years here. In June of 2020, the same guy, CEO Adam Mosseri, posted on Instagram, on his Instagram account, which, by the way, only has 500,000 subscribers. So I was kind of surprised by that. That's not really that many. If you're the CEO of Instagram, I'm pretty sure Michael Costa has more than that.
inching towards it. Yeah.
Anyways, but he acknowledged some pretty disturbing stuff, that there's like distribution bias, meaning that like Black people's photos aren't getting distributed the same way that like white users are, and algorithmic bias. The nerds over at Instagram are talking about that, and like these are pretty nerdy terms, but this is bad stuff, man. Like, this is bad. And then this is real bad. Mark Zuckerberg is real bad. And then in July, Instagram forms the Equity and Inclusion team, which sounds like pretty Orwellian to me, actually, to study the effect of the algorithm on minorities. Facebook actually had, back in 2019, in an internal study that found that with their new rules that they were bringing in about thresholds of when an account gets deleted, Black people were 50% more likely to have their accounts disabled under the new rules. And then internally, Instagram was just like, don't worry about it, we fixed it, and then banned studying it further inside of the company. Banned the study of it. They're like, we're not talking about this cap thing anymore. We fixed it. No more talking about it, which is really always a good sign. So some other recent stuff. Just last year, tons of companies started pulling advertising dollars out of Facebook. For a long time now, there's been some trouble. There's all the stuff with the tampering with the election. I don't even want to go into that. It's kind of old news at this point. But other stuff as well, like anti-Semitic groups, and other type of hate groups on Facebook being able to run ads, being able to create Facebook groups. And a lot of companies now have started to pull some ad dollars here. Disney, Unilever, Starbucks, Ford, Verizon, all of them are cutting back on their spending on Facebook ads because of these hateful and divisive groups. And Facebook's kind of history here, man. And this is why I'm not super encouraged by the news story here. They kind of have a history of being like super reactive when it comes to stuff like this, right? Rather than being proactive, rather than like creating the algorithm in a way, or creating the groups on Facebook, like the way that works, or anything that they can do with like the platforms themselves structurally to fix this problem. they just do it in a way that creates a problem. And then when they get caught, they'll fix it, right? And that's been the same thing with these anti-Semitic and, hate promoting, extreme alt-right groups and all this stuff on Facebook. And now it seems to be the same thing on Instagram here, where they're just like, oh yeah, we fixed it, and like everybody don't worry about it. And with this article too, it's kind of like the happy ending at the article. I don't want to be Mr. Jaded here, but like the article's kind of like, and then they've changed the policy and now everything's perfect.
Yeah.
Right. And like, this is a much deeper issue, right?
Yeah. I think, like we talk a lot on these shows about how important it is to be adaptive, but that is incredibly different, right? Like, and also, being able to adapt to issues and correct them is like not the core of how you run a business, right? And so like, just how do you I'm really upset about this.
Well, especially a business on Facebook's level, man, like so much money, so much power in terms of the world, right? Like they have to take responsibility, right?
And they do, right? And like, I think, and that's why I say some of these things, like put a team together. You mentioned they got tons of money. Put a team of like 20, 30 people together. You have the space, your headquarters is massive. Just be proactive, create platforms and innovate on those platforms in a way that makes people feel supported and makes people, feel like it's an inclusive platform that supports ideas and just justice, morally correct things. Like just lead the charge, like I think the smartest companies are the ones that whether it's a mistake of their own or something, like they can take it and not just patch that one thing up, right? It's not just like, if there's a hairline fracture and it's bigger in one section, you just put a Band-Aid over that. You fix the whole thing, right? You make sure that you don't allow it to get worse or happen again or whatever. And when you talk about the ban, like, come on, really? Like the message that sends is ridiculous. That is them saying basically like, yeah, don't worry, we fixed it. And if you notice something's wrong, don't even bring it up because we're not going to look into it. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible, man. So I don't know. Hopefully something does change eventually. There does seem to be at least a turn of the tides in terms of how people look at Facebook and Instagram. People aren't that favorable towards these companies anymore. I think a lot of people are kind of seeing it as like a necessary evil these days, which is interesting. But hopefully there will be more pressure. And at the end of the day, like we as creators and we as users of these platforms, sometimes we don't realize it, but we're in control. Like we have all the power. Everybody can just say, you know what, we're not going to use Instagram anymore. Like if you're not going to fix these things in the algorithm in like a big, fundamental structural way and address some of these issues, and, having minority voices involved with that and having them at the table and, bringing them into the company, it's not gonna suffice, right? So something big has to happen here, and I'm glad we're talking about it here. I did want to get some thoughts from people again. I want to talk a little bit about Kashif's point of view on this. We had a little chat today on Instagram, so as someone who is a lot more affected, let's be honest, by this thing than you and I are sitting here. So Kashif, again, is my Jamaican buddy who shoots lifestyle and portrait photos. And he kind of brought up the point that like, this isn't just an Instagram issue, right? This is like every type of media where Black people are censored and, marginalized. And there's just so much more adversity for Black artists who want to express themselves, right? It's so much harder for them to be successful, even though a lot of the time, like they're coming with such raw talent, right? And that's definitely a huge problem, and very insightful as well. He brought up like the lack of representation at the highest levels, right? Like you can say everything that you want. You can have these posts and say like, oh, we're really worried about this type of stuff, but you got to look at like the board of the company, right? Who's sitting there, who's on the board, who's at the table, who's like account executives, blah, 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 right? Like the executive level of these companies, they need to start making it more diverse and filling it out with some minorities. Otherwise, things just aren't really going to be changing. So I thought that was really insightful and really interesting point by Kashif. If you want to check out some of Kashif's work, he is a wonderful photographer. Kashif.Robinson on Instagram. So yeah, a bit of a troubling news story here, man. But I hope that we're going in the right direction. I hope that things do get better. And yeah, I mean, the ideal situation is where social media is a tool for people to advance themselves, advance their brand, advance their business, and not be held back. And this has been a problem for, like I said, for a really long time. And just a shame if we're going to move over to a new form of media here, you know, going from like the old school movies and music industry and all of this stuff where the corporation has like so much control. We're now like democratizing it onto these like social media platforms. And if we're still bringing all of those same biases over in terms of like what content is getting shown and, you know, assumptions about what people want to see on the platform, you know, that's just, it's not progress. And I think we all want to see some progress here. So
agreed.
And that is the show.
That is it.
That is the show. So we appreciate everybody tuning in here to the Photography Brothers. I think it was a really fun discussion. Definitely fun one to research and get into. Always enjoy our conversations here. Michael, I think we're going to get out of here, and I don't know. I got to go eat some steaks, man. I got some steaks to eat. I got some wine to drink. What about you, man? What do you got on the plate?
Man, I have some pizza pockets. They're like a little frozen over. So you know when you take them out of the freezer, they got a little ice buildup.
Mm-hmm.
So
like a
bottom of
the freezer one, yeah.
Bottom of the freezer. Somehow the pack's opened up, you know, and so you always get that little spot that's like a little cold, you know.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
But yeah, no, hey man, I love it. It's all good.
Hopefully the YouTube videos start paying the bills soon.
Exactly.
Anyway, guys, we're going to get out of here. We appreciate you listening to the Photography Brothers. Again, hopefully we'll have a better intro for you guys next time. We'll keep working on it. We're always working. We're always refining our skills here at the Photography Brothers. And we are excited to bring you on that journey with us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. See you.